Hello everyone, I am CoolGuy, welcome back, and I'm back. The beta has been gone for a little bit, so I gave it some time. I took a little break and I'm ready to give some of my thoughts. And when it comes down to it, there are a couple things here and there to discuss, and I'm going to briefly go over them, but there are two things that really stood out to me the most for the overall health of the game. And don't get it kind of twisted, because I love Destiny. I've always loved Destiny, and I want this game to be a powerhouse. So I do have some concerns, and that's why I need to talk about it. I went back and watched some gameplay and looked at some notes. The beta was very fun, and I'm kind of sad that it's gone. I can't wait for the full game to come out, and I'm really itching to play it. But the beta was a taste of what's to come, and I believe the foundation of this game is strong. It has a good base to build off of, and these opinions are mine, and some of you guys might not agree with it. That's okay. It's going to be a conversation. It's going to be a continuing conversation as the game launches, and I hope that you guys talk about it with me and voice your concerns as well. We are a community. So there's going to be a timestamp on the screen right now at the top, and also down in the description at the very top. That way you can kind of fast forward to get to the two things that I'm worried about the most, but right now I want to briefly go over a couple things about the beta. A lot of you guys asked me about certain things, subclasses, abilities, weapons. The long and short of that conversation is that it's a beta, right? As an example, the subclasses, most of them have a second better skill tree for different situations. The Way of the Outlaw tree for the Gunslinger has the 6 golden gun shots, very fast cooldown when you start shooting it. Now the other tree is the more traditional, slower golden gun. The Arc Strider, the second tree, has speed in it, things like that. So another things that players were asking me about was primary and energy weapons, and the pulse rifle itself felt the most polished in both kinetic and energy. It had good range, it competed with every other weapon in the game, a little too good. I mean, hand cannons, assault rifle, scouts, when dueling, they felt the most consistent as far as hit registration, distance, all of it. The scaff lock felt good, the ARs felt good, so did the SMGs. I feel like the headshot multiplier for the assault rifles could be a little bit higher, but the hand cannons, who knows what archetype they were, and that's kind of the point about talking about these weapons, guys. They're beta weapons. We had a couple of explosive round hand cannons. It was a 2 headshot, 2 body shot, and there's probably a higher impact hand cannon when the game launches, but as it sits, I'm not the biggest fan of that. They do well, but these hand cannons, there's no reward for headshots, and this is a Bungie game. You can't go through the motions of a 2 headshot, 2 body shot. Why? It's just a 4-shot kill. There's no reward for a headshot. But again, we're gonna have to see when the final game comes out. I would also like to see an increase in the abilities a little bit in the supers through performance, just like in Destiny 1. When you get a double kill, you get a tad more super energy. Medals play into that, and I would assume and hope that that's going to be the case when the game launches. I felt like the spawn times were a little bit longer with the recovery that you get. You make a good play, you get a double kill, you're really low health, then the recovery, even with a higher recovery, takes way too long. The enemy team gets right back to you before you're even fully healed. I'm not a fan of that. There's no reward for getting a good play, because by the time they come back to you, you're either trying to find a healing rift from a warlock or a shield from a titan, or just kind of give the position back that you just took. There needs to be balance in that. And with these three, resilience, recovery, mobility is making me really sad, guys. It's like the equivalent of agility in Destiny 1. That stat did little to nothing, and that's a shame, because for me, in a perfect world, you could spec your character for resilience and have almost like a max armor warlock in Destiny 1 with the ram. But you lose out on that recovery stat, and of course the mobility stat, which from what I can see in Destiny 2, the go-to stat for PvP and PvE is going to be recovery, just how this game, they coded everything and how everything works. And if you do your loadout for recovery, you lose out on that extra armor and that mobility. But again, the key factor here is mobility, guys. In theory, it should make you faster. I mean, the stock Hunter's gear had a lot of mobility, but it felt like you had nothing. You lost out on resilience, you lost out on recovery, just like agility in Destiny 1. Now, this is the beta build, but please, let mobility give you some sort of edge like the other stats do. It could be increased strafe speed, inherent quick draw, faster movement in general, something. You can't have something not do anything, and above all, give an explanation of what these stats are bumped for mobility. Let us at least know, let us have a better understanding. Now those were just some quick takes, but there are two things that I'm really worried about for Destiny 2 as the game goes on, and I really hope that it gets some attention. One is for PvE and one is for PvP. Now the one for PvE, we need to remember that Destiny is a PvE game first. It always has been. And I mostly play PvP, guys. There's no question. I put way more time into PvP than in PvE, but the overall health of the game needs to stand on PvE. I hope that they fine-tune both of them separately, even though that the game has changed since the build that we've played. I felt like the game was the same for both. Slow charge rate for abilities in PvE and supers felt the same in PvP. They changed how our special weapons worked. Instead of having a shotgun or sniper just readily active in PvE activities, we now need power ammo for those, in which they have since upped the drop rate for that power ammo, which they needed to. But we have this kinetic energy power slot build, right? The elephant in the room is that these changes were to balance PvP, which they did. Now, I am okay with this thought for PvE with a couple of conditions. I mean, energy weapons need to do work. Power ammo needs to do a lot of damage. But regardless of how you think about this, guys, this sticks, and you need to remember this. At the end of the day, it doesn't really matter, because this is how the game is now. Disagree or not, the facts are there. This is our game. You adapt and you conquer. But with these, they can't lose the sight of what makes the game special in PvE. It's making builds with your character, running around with your friends, feeling super powerful, doing good deeds. I mean, I don't know about you, but I didn't feel super powerful in this beta. Granted, again, it is a beta, but with legendary gear, I felt way more powerful with a Kvostov and all white weapons and gear in Destiny 1. What about you? So every decision should be made with PvE first. I mean, that's why people play the game. With these new consoles coming out, we're gonna get into Christmas, there's that special edition Destiny 2 PlayStation 4. That's what people are gonna be playing, PvE. And when I try to get friends into Destiny 1, my opening line is, dude, the Crucible is fun, but you gotta get the sniper. It regenerates ammo, it's a must get. You gotta do Nightfalls, I mean, just to have fun in there. Or the shotguns, yeah, but there's really only one shotgun, it's the Matador. You just need to actually get lucky at the Crucible as an end reward screen. But once you have that Matador, that's all you really need, because other players are using it as well. Like, that's not my main selling point. There's nothing like that. I talked about raids, I talked about gear, and so on. My fear is that this beta build that we had, which is months old, was designed in PvP as far as abilities and cooldown supers like that, even our power, kinetic, and power ammo, and all that just kind of transferred into PvE. That's not good. PvE needs to feel powerful, even though, quote, yes, we did lose our light. Make PvE the breadwinner. And what I've learned is that PvP will always work itself out. It always has and it always will, but PvE does not. When things get changed for PvP, the game moves on to another flavor of the month, while PvE stays behind, and that cannot happen. Don't let that happen. The second thing is for PvP, and something, again, I'm very passionate about. I talked about this a little bit with Mesa Sean recently on his channel. There's only going to be a link down in the description below if you guys haven't seen that. But I want to talk about it a little bit more with more collected thoughts. For PvP, we need balanced lobbies. Now, that's a simple statement, but there's a lot of moving parts to that, and I'm going to spend a great deal of time on this. It's a discussion, again. And we're going to be, again, ongoing discussion throughout Destiny 2. This is my #1 critique of Destiny 2's PvP. With all the things that will be changed, things like weapons, abilities, kill times, cooldowns, things like that, the way that they match players hasn't seemed to change, and we need true, absolute matchmaking. And before we talk about that, let's talk about generally how the matchmaking works. We have 2 matchmaking criteria. We have connection, latency to the lobby or to the host. That should be the #1 priority, guys. Above all, a good connection means the game runs properly. There are many times in Destiny 1 when the game didn't run properly, and you guys know exactly what I'm talking about. This is a peer-to-peer matchmaking game. They have their server side too, but whatever they need to do to get the best connection, that's what they need to do. And the second thing is skill. We know that. Skill-based matchmaking gets worse and worse and got worse and worse as the game goes on, and then gets to its absolute worst when the player pool goes down. Then that's all that you have, because when searching for skill, it's an accumulation of things. We have ELO, KD, win-loss. That's what they're kind of looking at, and probably many more things that they have in their algorithms. But as Bungie said, that quote, a good game of similar skills, what they strive for. But that's fine and all, and really all you can ask for is a good game. But for years now, the connection has been so terrible. I'm constantly going against 2 and 3 KD players from all over the place, the UK, Australia, everywhere. Player pool in Destiny 1 was down, and it's really hard to convince me otherwise that skill was weighted the most heavy in the matchmaking criteria. Very hard to convince me otherwise. Because if connection was prioritized, then we wouldn't have had the games that we've had for years. I mean, there are hundreds of thousands of people that log on to Destiny, and in theory, connection should be fine as the main search criteria. But overall, I feel that skill weighs on searching way too much, and it needs to be a lot lower than it is. And you might be thinking, this guy is just like all the other ones. He just wants to pub stomp, and that's the main primary argument against this statement, but that isn't the case, man. It starts to put players in a position once skill is heavily favored with your matchmaking, and this is something for everyone to consider. Below average, average, above average, pro. It's something for the developers to consider. In the beta, I mostly played solo, and I play the quote competitive mode and the quote quick play mode, and quick play dubbed as the party game mode, and competitive is supposed to be the essence of the word with competition. Skill-based matchmaking was in both of these playlists. And I should have charted it more, but I started looking up players 4 or 5 games in a row. Just random players, some were partied up, some random. All of them, most of them had over a 1.75 KD. And that's quick play, guys. Quick play. Ultimately, I found myself against top players, top streamers, and most of the time they had a team. And then I started facing super teams and very top Destiny players on teams. I mean, a full team of 4 of them against myself and 3 other random players. No one was partied up on our team. So just to paint a picture, this is quick play. This is social, right? This is the party game mode. This is literally the equivalent of a pickup game of basketball on the street, something that is fun amongst your friends and other random people. Hey, can I play? And then the Golden State Warriors show up, repeatedly. So a small section here, and I've said it for years. I've made videos about it. Other content creators have said it. The social and ranked from Halo 3 is the best in history for dividing playlists into social and ranked. It really was, and hopefully in competitive we get a rank and the system will work itself out from that point. Bungie made that system in Halo 3, guys, and it can be replicated. They've done it. So if they're just going to keep amping up skill-based matchmaking in these game modes, the left playlist instead of quick play should just say control, and the right playlist instead of competitive should just say search and destroy. Period, because there's no difference aside from the game mode itself. Skill-based matchmaking has been hated on in players in other games as well. Like, it gets amped up so hard and no one really understands it. Call of Duty and other numerous games as well, especially for a public match. A public playlist with no incentives to be had. And quickly, what we need to remember is that an average and below average player needs to try hard every single game anyway to do well. We all want to do well, but it gets to a point where you're 11 and 10 game, or your 15 and 11 games aren't fun at all. And on top of that, connection gets really bad. Your win-loss is at 50%. How is that fun as the end game for them? Like, how is that fun for anyone as your end game? It starts taking away from variety. Eventually the meta is found, but faster, because players are forced to fall within the meta just to get consistent kills. But that's gonna happen regardless. But even in social, like in Halo 3, I mean, we did have balanced starts. I mean, it could be yourself and 3 random people playing on your couch, right? Because there's split screen in Halo 3, going against, I don't know, a 50, a 24, like it was completely random, right? The whole goal was to have fun. And I think it takes the fun out of a lot of that once it's so heavily weighted. There needs to be some protection for newer players. I get that. It's not fun being someone's punching bag. I'm a big advocate for that. I don't want that. It's not fun for the player getting beat down. It's not fun for the player beating someone down. But gone are the days of, actual random good connection matchmaking. Those games are fun because all the players that are above average weren't good from day one. I mean, I got my butt kicked a lot and I still do, but you learn from it, right? You start to see what good players are doing. You try to emulate that. Now these players are playing other players of similar skill and it's just stagnant, and I kind of feel bad for them as the overall growth of a player trying to get better. But the only game, in my opinion right now, that does matchmaking justice is going to be Overwatch on every level, and it's just another main gripe with skill-based matchmaking being so heavily introduced, and something that Bungie needs to do. I mean, you need to start leveling out your teams. You need to match fire team to fire team. Just like I said before, when you have 4, partied up players against 4 random people, why do we do that? You did it in Halo 3, right? When you match 3, you generally found us a match of 3 players to play against. When you teamed up with 2, you found 2. When you're a team of 4, I would say 95% of the time you're playing another team of 4. But Overwatch still does this consistently. If you're a team of 4, you're going to be matched against a team of 4, like regardless. And that's in every single game mode, quick play or competitive. Then we have Destiny, 6v6. Why do you do that when you have a full 6-man stacked team versus 6 random people? I just don't understand that. I don't understand why that isn't really looked at a little bit more. And it also gives solo players a little bit more breathing room. I mean, a lot of people say, dude, like every time I go into the beta, I'm running against a stack of 4 teams. It's not fun for them. I really asked, and I hope that they do a better job of that. I mean, in quick play Overwatch, I've played up and with and against top 500 players, grandmasters. There are players that are unranked. There are players that are 2,000 skill points below me. No one complains because it's quick play. You go in there, you work on a hero, you work on your shot, similar to exactly what you did in Halo 3. And lastly, it really singles out the experience, man. I mean, my wife refuses to play Destiny with me because I pretty much play with my wife all the time, and a lot of you guys know that. I play with my wife and a couple of friends, and we can't really play with each other because it's not fun for her. We have to break up lobbies. It's not fun for me because she's not having fun. That's skill-based to me. Not everyone here is going to be MLG Pro. Not everyone aspires to be an MLG Pro, and gaming in general needs to get that through their heads, man. It's about fun. Regardless of, if you want a quote competitive match or not, people are gonna get better at the game, people are gonna be stagnant in the game, people are sometimes gonna get worse at the game. Like, you can't predict any of that, but you're kind of forcing a certain mindset for players to play with, and it's not fun. Like, it's really not. But when you start matchmaking weak players and strong players, the game works itself out. Everyone has fun, in my opinion, because honestly, some of my favorite times in gaming was Halo 3 matchmaking, in social. It really was. And it's important that the game runs on a proper connection. The fun of the game lessens when skill-based matchmaking is at its peak, and we're talking about a small percentage of players in that top 1% that, quote, other players need to be, quote, protected from. I would much rather get steamrolled by a good team than win in a laggy competitive match. I don't know about you guys. And one last time, I would like a rank. We need a rank. That rank gives players something to strive for. Systematically, the game will balance the lobbies. And I'm very passionate about this, guys. And I know some of you are shaking your head right now. You're looking at the screen and you go, no, cool guy, about some of this. But these thoughts are through experience. And I welcome your thoughts. Tell me your side. Tell Bungie your side, most importantly. That's what this is all about. A community-driven discussion on my end. That's what I like doing. That's how I like to do my videos, because everyone's voice is important. It doesn't matter if you just picked up the game. It doesn't matter if you put 3,000 hours in the game. We all play the same game. So I want this game, I want Destiny 2 to be fun and healthy, and I'm sure you guys do. So again, let me know in the comments section your thoughts on the topics discussed today, and until the next one, I am CoolGuy.